object in the environment itself, it's time to get down to talking about the entities and the attributes of them, which are the way that you go ahead and develop a relationship map in Kumu. And this environment is so deceptively simple that it's probably overwhelming. When you created a new project, you end up with a map that you named. And I created this one using the custom template so that nothing is actually decorated. But you end up, I said, with a canvas where you create the relationship model, and you have a profile page for that map, which has a title that you can edit, all right? And it has a description which you can go ahead and enter. And this description is formatted in what's called Markdown, which is the simplest formatting set of options that you've probably ever seen. And if you are not familiar with Markdown, on every entity in Kumu that you are going to edit the description in, there's an option here that you can click, and it will give you the one-page description of the Markdown conventions. They are, as I said, they are uncomplicated in a marvelous fashion. So you should go ahead and write a description of what it is that you're developing. Now, as you develop the relationship model, there are only 3 kinds of things that you use to develop a relationship model. You add an element. We'll call it the cat. Now, the only way to get the first element into the map is to use add element. So I can say that this is the cat, and then I can say that I want to add a connection to that and call it the mouse. All right, so it does a connection, but you notice that this thing is all floating around here. You can select these, and you can come down here and you can pin them so that they will stay where you put them. There's also an option over here to change the defaults so that they're floating or pinned, or whether the connections are directed or undirected. I can select this and go ahead and say that this is directed, so now it has an arrow on it. And notice that the label for this connection from cat to mouse is connection from cat to mouse, but I can change this also and say chases. So the cat chases the mouse. The simplest relationship model that I can imagine, consisting of 2 elements and 1 relationship. The element itself, notice that it has a title, a type, a description, the option to add tags, to add an image, and to add new attributes. The title, type, description, tags, and image are all attributes of that element. The consistency here is, I find, really marvelous, in that regardless of what the entity is that you create, it has the same set of attributes. So if I select the connection, it has a title, a type, description, the ability to add tags, an image, and new attributes. So if you're keeping track of items on your relationship map, you can type them. One type, I mean, the cat and the mouse are both animals, so you could have a type called animal, and you could have a number of characteristics associated with them that you could define in tags. But you might also want other types of additional attributes for entities that you create, and you can do a whole set of these, and you can create numeric attributes or date attributes or string attributes as needed to further define. If you're keeping track of people, you might want to know where they live and what company they're associated with, and their net worth, and I mean their male or female, and their height, and I mean, depending on what kind of what you're developing as a relationship model, the environment provides the ability to extend the definition of what you're keeping track of. So the only two, you start and you create an element and you create a relationship between those elements. And you can do the add element or add connection. The easy way is to go ahead and hold down the control or the option key and simply select this, hold down the control key, the alt key or the option key, and drag off of this and say mice, so that I can say that the cat eats mice. And I need to put an arrow on here also. So I can go ahead and do that, and then I can come back here and say that the default is directed, so I don't have to create these. And hold down the alt key and say the mouse, and say that this is eats. So the mouse eats cheese, the cat eats mice, and the cat chases the mouse. And I'm beginning to develop a set of relationships simply using elements and connections. And it's really that simple. The only other type of entity that is available to work with is called a loop. And if you select two or more connections, this add loop option pops up. And this is, I'll just call it group. So what you end up defining is a group which consists of this relationship and this relationship and the entities that it's connected to. But notice that for group, there's a title, a type, a description, tags, add image, and new attributes, so that it's consistent with element and connection, though you'll find as we move forward there are numerous advantages to groups, such as if I select this and hold it, it just shows me the elements of that group and not all of the things on the map, which is far more useful if you end up with a map of lots of elements on it. The loop was essentially designed to identify causal loops in causal loop diagrams, so that you could identify this particular loop as a balancing or reinforcing loop, and here are all the elements associated with it. And we'll get into that later. Though at this point, simply wanted to point out that you create a relationship map with elements and connections. And if you want to identify a set of connections and their associated elements together, you can select them, selecting one, holding the shift key, and then selecting the other one, and then naming a group of items, which in Kumu language is called a loop. And that's it. From there, there's an endless array of relationship maps that you can create with those three simple constructs. Now, in terms of how you make the relationship map look differently, that's all done with something called perspectives, and we'll touch on that a little bit in the next video. So this was just to give you a sense of how simple the environment is. I mean, you can become productive in the Kumu environment in 10 minutes or less. I mean, it's just about creating elements and connections and then labeling. So this is a part of about the Kumu overview. This is the entities and attributes, and there'll be a link to this particular module of Systems KeLE in the notes section for the video. See you in another video soon. Bye.